Councilmember Carlos Gonzalez. Present. Councilmember Luis Galindo. Present. Councilmember Jesus Roldan.
He technically he wasn't going to be able to.
And Councilmember Juan Castillo.
Present.
Mayor, this evening you do have quorum.
You can add roll call agenda. Here.
Remember, you have the same thing last year.
Last weekend.
Yes, Mayor, this has to do with an issue with the software that we're using. For some reason, it's not populating the roll call, so we've tried to fix that a couple of times, and we'll get on that and make sure we have it for the next one.
Moving on, talk to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to address council? There's no one from the public. Consent agenda, there's 3 items. Item number 1, approval of May 7th, 2020 and May 19th, 2020 work session minutes. Check register for the month of June 2020. Amendment number 1 to the between EDOC and City of Somerton for construction improvements of Cesar Chavez Avenue between Main Street and Jefferson Street and traffic signal on Cesar Chavez and Main Street. Is there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Is there a motion?
Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Gonzalez.
Second.
Second by Councilman Castillo. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to old business. Item number 1, discussion and possible action to approve only of ordinance number 2020-003, an ordinance of Mayor and City Council of Somerton, amending ordinance number 2015-002, and rezoning certain areas in the city property described herein as a portion of 10 acres, more or less, parcel number 195-33-028, multifamily residential to general commercial, number 195-33-027, a 35.79 acre parcel from single-family residential to multifamily residential to open space, zoning districts, and more particularly described in Exhibit A.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, Jorge Lozano, and I am covering this evening for Carmen Juarez, Community Development Director, who had a family emergency this evening. Mayor, essentially, this is a continuation of, or second reading of the ordinance that we had discussed previously at our last meeting, and this effectively rezones those those properties owned by the city on the west side, so that we can continue with the projects that have been outlined in those areas.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve 2020-003? Ordinance number 2020. By Vice Mayor Garcia, second by Councilman Galindo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Somerton, Arizona, amending ordinance number 2015-002 and rezoning certain areas in the city for real property described herein as a portion of 10 acres, more or less, of assessor parcel number 195-33-028 from multifamily residential R3 to general commercial C2, and assessor parcel number 195-33-027, a 35.79 acre parcel from single family residential R16 and multifamily residential R2 to open space, OS, zoning districts, and more particularly described on Exhibit A attached here too.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-003? A motion by Councilman Galindo. Second by Vice Mayor Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Business. Item number 1. New police officers and swear in to their oath of office by municipal court house presiding judge, Manuel Figueroa.
Good afternoon. Do we have the officers online?
Yes, we do. They're here present, Judge. Good evening.
Good evening. This is Judge Figueroa. I'm going to partake in the swearing in of the new officers this afternoon. Officer Jose Mena, Officer Alejandro Uribe, Officer Marco Ochoa, and Officer Carlos Bermudez. As a matter of information to the officers and anyone who's listening, this is not just a ceremonial act. This is actually something that's required by the Arizona state statutes that any officer, official that works for any governmental agency in the state of Arizona be sworn in as a matter of record. The rules of the court have been amended by the Supreme Court, allowing for such matters to occur by either telephone, by video, and any other electronic means necessary in compliance with our guidelines for social distancing. So this is the first time that I know in Yuma County, I'm not sure anywhere else in the state, but in Yuma County that we have sworn in officers of any nature into their offices by video or by teleconference. The officers, Chief Juarez, the officers have their document which they'll read?
Yes, they do.
Thank you. Also, it is the understanding of this court that officers Mena, Uribe, and Ochoa Bermudez have met all the requirements set upon them by the city of Somerton and their state of Arizona certification process to become a peace officer in the state of Arizona. At this time, I need the officers to raise their right hand and repeat after me. After the word I, you'll repeat your own name, and then we'll proceed. Again, after the word I, you will repeat your name, and then we'll proceed. Raise your right hand if you don't have it already. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona.
And the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of City of Somerton Police Officer. According to the best of my abilities. So help me God. Officers, you have been sworn in officially to become a certified peace officer in the state of Arizona, specifically for the city of Somerton. We are witnessed this afternoon by those members of the City Council who are present and those who are present by audio, and of course, the Chief of Police. I extend my wholesome congratulations to you. And in the future, if you have any questions in reference to our procedures in our courthouse here in Somerton, you're welcome to stop by and share your thoughts or any suggestions. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Chief Juarez. Thank you, officers.
Thank you, sir.
Judge, and I'd like to thank the officers. Welcome to the city of Somerton. Thank you for choosing us to provide your service. Come to a really good organization with the third safest city in Arizona. And you have support here from City Council. And you come at a good time too. This fiscal year, the officers are going to get a raise on the. So, congratulations and welcome, City of Somerton.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Officer Chief Juarez.
Juarez?
Yes.
Yes, you'll have to, there at the, before you leave the chambers, have the officers individually sign those documents and then hold them for me so we can get my signature tomorrow morning.
That's correct. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night, Mayor.
Thank you.
Item number 2, presentation of fiscal year 19/20 recycling program revenue and expenses. Palacios.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The item before you is the presentation of revenue and expenses for the last year for the recycling program. As you can see, we have the expenses and the revenue basically from finance department. This is our number that we have on Casel, on our finance department. The blue, which is the account 523622, is the revenue that we received this last year, and all the green accounts is expenses for the last year. So as you can see, we have a revenue of 23,000 and change, and we have an expenses of 34,451. So if we have the deduction from the expenses from the revenue, basically we have 11,362 in the whole in red numbers. Basically, we have more expenses than revenue. But if I count the tipping fee that we're saving, not giving those bales to the landfill, basically we have a savings of 3,510. This is a savings not giving that material to the landfill, not sending that material to the landfill, which basically is a savings at the end. So if we deduct the 3,000 from the 11, we still have 7,851 in red numbers, continue as a most expenses than revenue. Fortunately, we've been able to sell the cardboard material in the past 3 weeks. And the reason is because we basically take the material and do not sell because we don't have market on that time. I'm saying basically about 8 to 9 months ago, we have basically zero market on the recyclables. No market for the cardboard, for the plastic, for the paper, not for nothing. We requested 3 times to our vendors prices, and basically they tell us, you know what, we can't because we don't have any prices. One of the local vendors say, well, I can take the cardboard from you free, basically. So they don't want to pay anything. And I said, well, we have about 800 tons of cardboard. We have a lot of bales. and I don't want to lose that possible money in the future. So I decided to keep that cardboard and do not give it to them. So, like I mentioned about 3 weeks ago, I requested again prices, and we will be able to receive 2 quotes. Actually 3 quotes. One from the local vendor, one from a vendor from Colorado, and one from a vendor in Mexico. And the price was that the Colorado and the local vendor, which is owned by a company from San Diego, gave us the price for $40 per ton. A company from Mexico gave us the price for $50 per ton. So at the end, we're gonna receive about between 15 to 20,000 selling the cardboard that we basically keep it until we receive good numbers, and here we go. So part of that 10,373 is the money that we already received from the sales that we sold 2 weeks ago, from material that we have in that prior year. So you can see we have on revenue 10,373 plus we're gonna receive maybe in the next week another check from 5,000. And if I add the tipping fee that we're saving, not sending those bales to the landfill, it's an extra 7,348, those in tipping fees. So if I add the 10 and the 7 minus the 7,000, we basically are in good numbers about 10,000 plus the 5,000 that we're gonna receive in the next week or two. So basically, at this point, we are at the end of this year, but we receive a good news by the price of cardboard that we are receiving. Mayor and Council, that's my report, and if you have any questions?
Questions on the recycling program or the number?
So Sam, on the cardboard, I got a little bit lost there. So it's already been sold, the cardboard?
Yes.
To which vendor?
Medol from Mexico.
From Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
So they already paid a portion there?
Most of all the cardboard is gone already.
Okay. So at the end of the day, we're gonna be $10,000 good to go?
Actually more. It's gonna be about 15 to 20,000. Correct.
Mayor, this is Councilman Villalpando. I have some questions.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Sam, do you know if there's any leakage, and if there is, how much leakage there is? By leakage, I mean the community obviously needs to recycle as much as possible in order for it to be financially feasible for us, and to actually save a lot more in the tipping fees, and maybe not rely just on the savings of the tipping fees to make it affordable to recycle. So do you have any estimations, or have you ever looked into how much the community is not recycling?
Yes, Councilman Villalpando. Last time, I will say maybe a year ago or maybe more, we performed this study, or we checked those numbers, and comparing the material that we send to the landfill and the material that we have on the recycling plant. And unfortunately, I believe, if I am not wrong, it was about 70% trash and 30% recycling.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So my question is, and I know I brought this up in the past, I know Tolleson, the city of Tolleson, they actually fine residents for not recycling or for putting too much recyclables in their garbage. Have you ever looked? I brought it up numerous times, and to see how they're doing it in order to be more efficient with this recycling.
We can we can definitely go and explore that route, Councilmember Villalpando. We can definitely start checking those random containers to see if the people are recycling what it should be, and if not, it's something that we can decide. We can come up with a fee or some kind of notice to them to start recycling more as opposed to.
Well, the thing is if you don't have the proper steps in place as far as being able to levy some type of fine, I mean, what incentive is there for them to recycle? They obviously, you know, the saving the tipping fees is a big deal because that is actually how we set our rates for trash collection, and we've been having these discussions for several years, and it seems like members of the community aren't either buying it or they're not fully aware that they must recycle in order to keep some of these tipping fees low, or else there's going to be rate increases. So, I mean, it's either we look at adopting the process that Tolleson has, or we simply raise the rates. And they start complaining, we'll turn around and tell them, hey, you guys should have recycled and we wouldn't have been in this predicament. So I guess for anybody that's out there listening right now, encourage recycling because it does save us from having to increase rates. That's all I have, man.
Hey, Councilmember, I will take a look on that for sure.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
And for this fiscal year, do you kind of see us in the similar savings for next year?
Well, depending of this pandemic situation, because unfortunately, I don't have the inmates since 3-4 months ago, and that's a big savings for us, labor. So at this point, I don't know, Councilmember Castillo, to be honest, because currently the plant is closed because I don't have the manpower to store the material. I have a lot of material from last year that I was able to sell it right now, but this coming fiscal year, I don't know because of the labor. But if everything continues as is, hopefully the prices are getting better, and we're gonna be able to sell the material. So it's two things here: the COVID-19 and the prices from the recyclables. It's a variable number. I mean, market.
So right now we're not. We're just stockpiling the material.
Correct, because I don't have the inmates, the labor. I have a lot of material that I selling right now, but currently now, I don't have the manpower to store the material.
I remember when we started this program and it was needed to educate the community to recycle like this, and I think it's time to go back to the school whenever they reopen again and we can inform the community of the importance of recycling, you know, and just, you know, let them know. And are you taking in consideration here the gas and mileage and wear and tear of the vehicles here? Because, you know, now we're not going all the way to the dump every Tuesday or what, every month, Thursday.
Correct.
So that's savings to wear and tear of the vehicles and.
That's correct.
I don't know if you have it here.
It's basically on all of my accounts. So you can see the gasoline and oil, basically all these accounts on green is basically all my expenses, taking into consideration everything.
Yeah, maybe just a reminder to the community.
Maybe.
Facebook or whatever.
Recycling campaign.
Maybe a video to start with, but yeah, we need
The kids are home, they eat a lot and every morning I see 2 bottles of something in the counter that my daughters drink overnight. So, you know, maybe it's just information to the community where we are now.
And what type of security measures do you have at the recycling plant? I would think that aluminum, if there is valuable the resource there, so there might be some, we have cameras.
We used to have cameras, not at this point. We have two gates actually, and we placed the forklift and the bobcat on the side and on the other side of the bales from the aluminum cans. But those, as soon as we have 3, 4, 5 bales, we sell it. So the aluminum can is part of the revenue from the last year. So we're trying to sell that material as soon as possible. Aluminum is always a market, maybe not as good as 2 years ago, but it is a market on the aluminum cans.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Is there a comment that we can get those security cameras working?
Yes, Mayor, we've had some issues, which is the shelter and the housing for the cameras, but we'll get on it.
So, the shelter that we have over there right now, it's a makeshift shelter done a couple years ago. And the way they did it, they put all the equipment in there, and over the time, it collected dust, and with the heat, the equipment started giving out. So we're trying to come up with an idea where we could build a shelter that protects the equipment as well. But once we get that built, the cameras should be back up.
Item number 3, discussion and possible action to transition from Verizon to FirstNet Communications for Somerton Police Department's network program.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm here to ask that you allow us to transition from the network provider that we have right now, which is currently Verizon, to FirstNet. And I believe Chief DeAnda has covered some of the benefits that will come from transitioning. I'm just going to mention a few, and then I'll open it up for questions. Yes, So, if we look at some of the features, some of the things that we're using at this time, we have about 20 MDCs. We have 2 mobile devices that we use for our laptops. We have the 22 lines, and then some of the things that you'll see, if we skip through all this, this is some of the stuff that all the other providers give us. Well, some of the major benefits that will come from moving over to FirstNet is that we'll be saving money. Taxpayers' money will be saving about $700 a month. We'll be receiving a one-time activation fee and buyback, which is about $3,000. That'll equate to approximately 2.5 months of fees that we get from Verizon. And the other thing, the most important thing, other than the savings, is that we're going to be having first priority. That means that automatic front of the line services for first responders, we have priority and preemption. The only physical separation network core dedicated, this one's dedicated to only public safety. So I believe we've mentioned in the past that it'll give us a frontline opportunity to be able to speak to each other in case of an emergency, in case of a catastrophe. They're highly reliable. We have placed we've used their MiFis, we've used their SIM cards on the computer, so we know that their computers work throughout the entire county for us. No data throttling, and it's one of the fastest services that we'll be able to get. All this is public safety geared. Any questions?
Questions or comments?
Mayor, I have a question. This is Councilman.
Yes, Councilman.
Chief, I noticed that you guys getting 2 hotspots. Are those do the phones that you guys receive, do they have the capability to turn into a hotspot?
Yes, the only issue with that one, Mr. Villalpando, is that the personnel that's issued these cell phones are not the same personnel that's issued the laptops.
Okay, so who's issued the laptops?
One of our evidence technician has issued one of them, and our communication supervisor.
Okay, but aren't they there in the building, so they wouldn't need those hotspots? They could use server or whatever you guys have.
So a lot of the times, they work offline, they work off the station because of the amount of work that they have. So that's when we provide them those laptops. The other use for them is that when we go on trainings, the officers that carry these laptops with them, because they're moved around from person to person at times, they don't have none of these cell phones assigned to them.
Oh, so they turn in all their equipment afterwards?
Well, they don't have work phones assigned to them, so they would carry with them the laptop and the MiFi. One of the other use, Mr. Villalpando, to the MiFi is that we have 2 additional MDC units, which is a computer that we carry in our car, and they don't have any. They don't have any service. They're spare units, so when the officers need an MDC, they're able to get that one from like a backup unit.
Oh, okay. So my second question is, how long are these rates for? You know, is it a permanent rate or is there yearly increases?
There's no yearly increases, and this is a permanent rate that they're giving us at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I'm seeing is better service and the savings per year.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, you'll recall at the last council meeting, the chief of fire, Mr. Deanna, also came forward and presented his conversion also to FirstNet.
May I add something else, Mayor? One of the questions that was posed to Chief Deanna was whether there was going to be a cancellation fee, and there's no cancellation fee.
And Chief Deanna's was approved, or is this the same item?
Chief Deanna's was approved as well, please.
There a motion?
Make a motion to approve the transition from Verizon Wireless to FirstNet Communications for Somerton Police Department's network provider.
A motion by Councilman Castillo, second by Councilman Gonzalez, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Item number 4, discussion of possible action to approve ordinance number 2020-004, an ordinance, City of Somerton, fixing, levying, and assessing primary property taxes upon property within the City of Somerton, subject to taxation, each in a certain sum upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be required in the annual budget for the fiscal year 2020 through 2021, as the amounts estimated to be received from other sources of revenue and the unencumbered balances from the previous fiscal year, providing a general fund and fixing, levy, and assessing upon properties within the boundaries of the City of Somerton to include improvement districts subject to taxation. Out for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021. Are you sure this is not the ordinance? Or is it just the...
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Zarina Gallegos, Finance Director. I hope you're all well today. This is the final step in our budget process. This will establish the levy for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The current the levy that we will raise through this ordinance is $684,123. I've provided you the truth and taxation analysis, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
And it's the same we've been presenting the last meeting.
Yes.
There's nothing that has changed or anything.
No, sir. No, sir. They're just, this is the last step. Once you approve this ordinance, I'll forward this to the tax commission, the county, and it will be the final step.
So Mayor, you'll notice that the title of this document is an ordinance. However, this is a special kind of ordinance that we call. It's called an administrative ordinance. It does not need the 2 readings as our code requires. So whenever we're just doing something administratively that is not affecting anybody's, property rights or personal rights, we pass an administrative ordinance, one reading, one time, very similar to a resolution.
Any questions or comments? A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, ordinance number 2020-004.
Motion by Councilman Gonzalez. Second by Vice Mayor Garcia. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Summary of current events or future agenda items like council members?
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the summary from the interim city manager. We do continue to urge Somerton residents to obey the local face covering emergency declaration. Somerton continues to be among the highest in COVID-19 infections in the state, and many of our local elders have succumbed to the virus. Please remember to practice social distancing, avoid large gatherings, use face coverings in public, and wash your hands thoroughly. And speaking of washing your hands, we are installing hand wash stations in various points throughout the city. We are placing one in front of our courthouse near the 85350 restaurant area, and one in front of our bus station near City Hall. We'll also have hand washing stations in some areas in our pathways. This is an effort to help mitigate the spread of COVID and also to encourage people to walk around, exercise, or to have a meal in their city with some peace of mind. The funeral procession for Dil Begay, Cocopah tribal member, happened last week, and the procession went through parts of our city. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman Villalpando, and I had the opportunity to view the procession at the Cocopah Golf Resort, and Councilman Gonzalez got to ride along as part of the procession to honor Mr. Begay. Somerton PD helped with traffic control, and Somerton Cocopah Fire raised the ladder of the fire engine and flew the Cocopah flag. Rest in peace, Mr. Begay, on behalf of the city of Somerton. We did create a new outreach segment called the Somerton Scoop. This collaboration between special events and our graphic designer is aimed at showcasing local merchants and to encourage people to continue shopping local. It also highlights the precautionary measures being followed by merchants. Last week, the ladies visited 85350 restaurant, and yesterday they visited Lerma's Feed. They will continue doing live shows each week, and in the future, the Somerton Scoop can also highlight special events as well. We are in the midst of an election for 3 seats for city council members. Currently, early voting is taking place, and the final date of vote is August 4th. In the event that any seats remain at large, a runoff election will be held November 3rd, 2020. This year we'll also be using the Somerton Middle School as a vote center because we're in need of more space to keep people separated, the six feet apart, and the local library did not meet social distancing requirements. Also, in the November general election, we'll have 2 ballot questions for the city of Somerton. One is the approval of our general plan, and another for approval of home rule. We're encouraging residents and interested stakeholders to submit comments for or against home rule by visiting our website, and these will be published in a publicity pamphlet that will be mailed to all registered voters in Somerton in preparation for the November election.
So that's for those departments?
No, that's mine. Carmen Juarez, Community Development Director, says that census enumerators will start knocking on doors of city residents who have not completed their questionnaire by August 11th. Enumerators, because these are people, will make 3 separate attempts to contact the residents. It's easier for residents to complete questionnaires online or by telephone to avoid any physical contact with census workers. The deadline to submit questionnaires is October 31st, 2020. In the event that we just don't get any residents after 3 attempts to open their door, the census can also do a proxy, which is going to a neighbor's house and asking the neighbor about the house next door and the people who live in it. But we really need people to start filling out the census. Staff is working with the Somerton Elementary and High School districts to rezone both properties to government districts. These rezoning requests have been tentatively scheduled to the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 21st. The lot split for the high school property has also been submitted for review and approval. And Community Development Department has been experiencing telephone issues for the past few days, where callers indicate they receive a busy signal when calling in. IT staff is already working resolve problem. San Palacios Public Works Director says Zocalo Gardens water main replacement and street reconstruction project contractor completed the asphalt pavement at all road segments. In addition, the contractor completed raising frames and covers of manholes and water valves and the installation of water meter boxes. Currently, the contractor is close to completing the pouring of a few segments of concrete sidewalks. The replacement of the sidewalk ramps should be completed at the end of this week or beginning of next week. Cesar Chavez Avenue traffic signal and the street reconstruction project. Staff advertised the project on the Yuma Daily Sun on Sunday, July 12th and Monday, July 13th. We also sent the bid package to several plan rooms. The pre-bid meeting has been scheduled for August 6th. Replacement of concrete sidewalks. Streets Departments demolished several pieces of sidewalks that have risen due to high temperatures. Staff prepared the site, placed traffic control, and has scheduled a concrete pour for this Friday. Sus Mesa, Parks and Rec Director, says Parks and Recreation divisions are working hand in hand, making low budget, high impact improvements to the community center. The Senior Center received its new freezer on July 15th, 2020, paid with grant funding from Arizona Food Bank Network. Staff is overseeing a promotional campaign to highlight projects and positive messages for the community in relation to Pathways, Cultural Center, Community Center, and the Senior Center. Paul DeAnda, our fire chief, says that in the last 2 weeks, they sprayed down both City Hall and the municipal courthouse. Personnel used aerosolized hypochlorous acid, which is a natural cleaner and disinfectant, which means there's virtually no risk of allergic reaction and no antibiotic resistance. In clinical studies, it demonstrates to effectively replace bleach, multi-purpose cleaners, bath and tile cleaners, glass cleaners, and even carpet cleaners. The personnel have continued to transport COVID-19 positive patients 2 and up to 5 times a day. Stated previously, they've had to use a compressor and sprayer at the hospital and 2 at the station. Battalion Chief Carlos has been focusing on ensuring that our staff uses face masks while on duty and that personnel maintain social distancing. Chief Carlos purchased small dinner tray tables that are now used for eating by our personnel. This way all personnel maintain their distance when eating. Hector Tapia, Economic Development Director, says that the Regional Fiber Optic Master Plan, the regional team includes the City of Yuma, City of Somerton, City of San Luis, Yuma County, and Welton. Kimberly Horn is the engineering consultant firm preparing the original master plan. The conversation in Somerton has been focused on Main Street, US 95, and along Avenue D to the south of the city limits. Avenue D is designated as Somerton's industrial corridor for light industrial employment. Westside City property and Somerton High School. Bill Sims is working on a development agreement between the city and Yuma Union High School District. The development agreement will outline the infrastructure development costs and the shared costs to be paid by the city or Yuma Union High School District. Economic Development staff is coordinating this effort. grocery store recruitment project. The retail coach is now on board and assisting the city on this important project for the Somerton community. This company will develop strategies on how to attract businesses, primarily a grocery store. Kickoff meeting was held on Tuesday, July 14th at 11 a.m. The retail coach is requesting a list of local stakeholders willing to participate on a survey to get feedback about their experiences about the community's needs for a grocery store. Araceli Juarez, Chief of Police, says they have implemented their less lethal deployment for patrol, which provides us an additional resource to lethal use of force. This consists of 2 shotguns that will fire super soft 12-gauge rounds. They continue to monitor our bike lanes to ensure they're not being obstructed by vehicles. Their officers will be seen using a more traditional uniform here in the next couple of weeks. I guess that's like the NFL. Like I said, they've also asked officers to embark in more foot patrol in the downtown area and apartment complexes. Serena Gallegos, Finance Director, reports the staffing and finance. Their priority is high right now as 2 members of staff are telecommuting full-time and 2 others are telecommuting part-time. She'll begin working with the human resources to fill the vacancy in a department. And specifically this week, we did talk about filling the accounts payable position. And priority now is closing the 2020 fiscal year. And Mayor and Council, those are the reports from our directors. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Garcia.
Brian mentioned that I went on ride-along last Friday with Chief Juarez. Around and encourage everybody to ride along with the things that we don't usually see on a daily basis. That's it from me.
Councilman Villalpando.
I don't have anything, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Gonzalez.
I just wanted to share some numbers on the Yuma County and COVID-19 cases by age group. And as I look at these numbers, ages from 5 to 8 years old, there's 108. Ages from 8 to 12, there's 253. Ages from 13 to 15, 144. And ages from 15 to 20, 521. And percentage-wise, the 15 to 20 is 43.28%. I can't believe it. You know, when I look at these numbers, you probably got them too. I was like, 15 to 20-year-olds, 531 cases in the county. I was thinking more like elderly people, but better than that. And it's hard to control teenagers and kids this age. You kind of like just spread out. They just want to get closer all the time, but that's one of the things we gotta look into as we go around the city here, patrolling. And that's one of the things that Chief Juarez should pay attention to. These young kids, you know, they hang out and play football. Like right now at the council park, that's what they're doing. As I went by there before I came here, they're playing football. And I mean, they're running, they're apart. And there's some coaches practicing soccer right now with little kids. So.
Yeah, so we need to keep an eye on that. That's still not.
But yeah, that's pretty high though. 15 to 20-year-olds, 43%. That's what I have.
Parks are close to these sports. They're walking and social distancing to take a look at. Steve.
Well, like Mr. Lozano said, Hector and I participated in a virtual kickoff meeting with the retail coach, on July 14th. And, I think it went well. We were very clear with our expectation that, our city is in desperate need of another grocery store. And that is the goal,
I did read in the weekly reports that Mr. Tapia suggested that a grocery store project committee might be needed. You know, and I'd say we can add this to a future agenda item, you know, for discussion. You know, because I mean, I think it's important, you know, also, Mayor, another future agenda item I would like to add, is, our current practice and policy that we have in place regarding when an employee seeks, a pay increase. You know, we can bring that up, you know, as a topic for discussion. You know, our next meeting or within the next 2 meetings. That's all I have.
Over here, we can have just an overview of what that policy is on the pay increase, what it is, and maybe take some suggestions from council. See what that is. And also for the agenda item, to see what that committee is gonna be, what their function is going to be. We can maybe see or give suggestions on what or who we would like there, or what the thought from staff is of who's gonna be pick up that committee, what's its function.
On the
retail coach. On the retail coach, yeah.
I wouldn't mind volunteering from council.
I'll nominate.
I'll be a member.
Councilman Calindo.
Nothing point out that stay safe and just wear masks every time you go outside. COVID is real.
And I don't have much, just the regular dealings. We did have the COVID task force meeting where we discussed the cases. There's still not there was some reduction in COVID cases some of the days, but that spiked last week and then today, was it, or yesterday? Today, so it's still still going, and so we're hoping that at least it works like the stock market, it's up and down, but we see a downward trend and start making those decisions. So hopefully other measures that we're taking it helps. On Monday, we have the next Monday, forefronted meeting is going to be held virtually, so no report on that. We have 2 items in executive session. Item number 1, discussion for legal advice of the city attorney, City of Somerton, regarding the duty, salary, and benefit selection process for the position of city manager for the City of Somerton. Item number 2, discussion and consultation with the city attorney in order to instruct its attorney on the city's position regarding contract negotiation with Yuma Union High School District relating to facilities, infrastructure, and fees related to. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So move here.
A motion by Councilman Gonzalez, second by Councilman Castillo. Favor? You opposed?
We're done with them, right?
So we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. We're gonna be.
Yes. I was gonna ask you, as I read in the papers when I read every morning, I see the differences on the COVID cases. Today were 52 difference. Yesterday they were 258 difference. What's the deal? I mean, one day is 250, the next day is 52?
Yeah, we were talking about that, me and my wife. Is I guess the delay from the testing.
No say.
Because, yeah, I think it's the delay from the testing. Yeah, I don't know why.
It was 52, I was like, yes, and then
I know.
it was like 300, it was like,